In 2021, the 11th edition of the Darth Vader comic was released. This was exciting to some fans if they were interested in the comics filling up plot holes for the sequel trilogy. Now in this comic, some really interesting things happen when Vader visits Exegol for the very first time. While there, he sees the Emperor, who has a clone of someone, or better yet, something in a tank. As we know, this is Snoke. But how does he have the power to clone anything he wants? He actually has Luke's hand, which was cut off in past events as we've seen in the movies, and he uses his hand to create Force-sensitive clones of his own. Not only does Darth Vader see this, but he also sees something maybe even more interesting. He sees a huge fleet of Star Destroyers, and when he sees them, he says,
"More monsters? More machines?"
After being replied to finally, he realizes that they are actually each individually capable of destroying entire planets by themselves. And not only that, there are hundreds of them. To some fans, this may seem like a really cool interaction, especially the ones that really like the comic books. But it begs the question, if Darth Vader knew about what was going on with the Emperor on Exegol, why did he never tell Luke? And I will make a video on what could have happened if he did tell Luke about this. But for now, if he told Luke, the events of the sequels would have been entirely different. And at that point, Luke being the hero he was before, he would have had the information to truly stop the Emperor before it ever got to this point. And like I said before, I'm making a video on this, but I'm really curious to hear what you guys think about this, because in my opinion, this changes a lot of things. For one, I feel like this kind of hurts the redemption arc of Darth Vader in the Return of the Jedi, because if he had the information of where Snoke was, where the Emperor could be, and where all the starships would be that could destroy individual planets themselves, why would he not just tell Luke right then and there? He had the greatest opportunity to tell Luke, and he just doesn't ever mention it. Not only that, they've talked through the Force throughout all of these events. And that being said, you would think he would at least mention something to Luke about this. But no, never one thing is mentioned about this to Luke. And that puts Luke in a weird position because he cuts himself off from the Force almost and doesn't want to be involved with it anymore, as we see in the sequel trilogies. And then it's up to Rey and kind of Kylo Ren even to stop the Emperor at the very end of it all. When in reality, we could have just had Luke go to Exegol and do it all himself, because as we know, Luke is one of the most powerful Jedi, if not the most powerful Jedi to have ever lived. So yeah guys, overall I think that in the sequels we could have seen a different outcome where Luke actually leads the regime and maybe Rey is under him and they go to Exegol together to defeat the Emperor, and from there we get a proper passing of the torch from Luke down to Rey, where he kind of guides her, but she rebuilds the Jedi Order by herself, or maybe even with a little bit of his help. And I think that would have been a really cool way to finish off the whole Skywalker saga. But that's just my opinion, guys, and I'm super curious to hear your guys' thoughts on this. Please just like and subscribe, and may the Force be with you all.
Join me, and together we can rule the galaxy as father and son.